All right, good morning, everyone. So if you haven't been with us, we are in our Courage series, and what we're doing is just looking at different topics, different issues that take courage for us to stand by, to take courage to actually stand for in our environment and our society that we live in today. And as Christians, we are called biblically 4 different things that are particular interest to us. We are called to be change makers in this world. We're called to be the light of the world. We're called to be truth tellers. And we're called to be ambassadors of Christ. And to be any of those things in this world that we live in today, it requires us to be people of courage. Now, 2 weeks ago, we began a part of this series where we're talking about how you can learn to confidently support the core issues of the Christian worldview, all right? And so the reason this is important is without confidence in what you believe, it's very hard to have courage. All right, so to have courage without confidence, they just don't go well together. So you need to have courage, or you need to have confidence to have courage. And so the scriptures tell us this is something that we have to be confident in, that we have to be able to explain why we believe what we believe. 1 Peter chapter 3, verse 15, it says this, "And if someone asks you about the hope you have as a believer, always be ready to explain it." All right? So what it's saying is, as Christians, it's not good enough just to say you're a Christian. As a Christian, we also need to be able to explain to other people why we are, like why we became a Christian, what it means, what that faith is about. So 2 weeks ago, I talked about how we can have complete confidence to stand before this world and to say with courage that yes, there is a God, that there is an eternal, intelligent creator. It's not really a debatable issue based on everything that we see in science and logic and everything else. We know that to be true. Last week we talked about, is God still here? So we know there's a God who created, but is he still here? And we talked about why through a logical pursuit and why by looking at other intelligent creators such as ourselves, we can come to a determination that it's very probable that God is still at work in his creation, that the thing he created, he is still here at work among us. So that leads to the next question that we have to look at, and it's just basically this, which is, has God spoken? So if there is a God, and we know there is, if he still interacts with his creation, has he spoken to us? And that takes us to a very complicated issue, and it's an issue about religions. And so what we have to do this morning is try to simply sort out, in about the next 15, 20 minutes tops, all the religions of the world and go, is there one that stands out? And that's what we're going to do this morning, is we're going to be looking at those religions. So to start off, let me just give you the religions we are going to be looking at, and you'll see them up on the screen and what percentage of the world population says that they are follow these religions. The first one is Christianity. About 31% of the world's population, I think it's somewhere around like 2.4 billion people or something, say that they are Christians in the world. Second is Islam, which is 24.9% of the world population is Muslim. Hinduism, Buddhism is 22% of the world population. Some of the others we're going to look at, even though they are small in number, is Judaism, because it's important for us to look at Judaism, which only makes up about 0.2% of the world population. Mormonism, again, only about 0.2%. But as Americans, most of them live here, so we have interaction with the Mormon faith quite often, so we're going to cover that one. Jehovah's Witnesses, same thing, small number, but most of them are here in the United States, and we're aware of them and have probably run into them at some point. The next one is Scientology. No one even on the radar to tell you how many believe in it. It's just fun to talk about. So that's the only reason I threw that in there, is this is a fun one as we go through today to hit on Scientology. And the last one is those that say they're non-religious or they would claim to be atheist, which make up about 15.5% of the world's population. All those bring you to about 94%. The other 6% are just small groupings of all sorts of stuff that are unique to different countries and stuff like that as you look around the world. So the question always is this: can any one of those religions actually be a message from the God we know that has to exist, that is probably interacting with this creation? Can any of those actually be that message? The second possibility is this: are they all just garbage? So looking at all those, you just go, they're all garbage. None of them actually speak for a God. They're just religions made by men, and they're all garbage. Or there's this possibility: do all of them just lead to the same place and they all lead to the same God? who we accept is out there somewhere, and they just all lead to the same place, or just different stories, all right? Those are the three things most people think about when they think about religions, which is one's right, or they're all wrong, or they all lead to the same place. Well, that's the first thing we're going to look at, and the first thing I can assure you of is this. There's absolutely no possible logical way that they all lead to the same place. So if you are a person who says, well, all religions kind of get you to the same place, that is completely illogical. There's no way to say that is true because they all have totally different messages. So logically, there's just no way to wrap your head around that to say they all get to the same place, other than you're just a peacemaker and you want people to feel good and just be like, no, it's all good, all right? But there's no way it's true. So that one I know is not right. The second possibility is they are all garbage, that every one of them up there is wrong, that none of them speak for God and they're just man-made things. That's very possible that could be true. And I want you to know, yeah, they could all be garbage. At the same time, I would say this. Before we throw them all out, we have to take some time and really look and go, does one possibly stand out as a possible message from God before we just throw them in the garbage can? Okay? And so we're going to look at that this morning, and I'm going to show you how I believe you can rule out all other religions except for two that are up there and throw them in the garbage can right from the start without knowing much about them, knowing minimal about them. Because one of the biggest struggles we have is this, and I had this when I was in Bible college, is I don't know of all Christianity beliefs yet, okay? I'm still studying those things, trying to figure out where I stand on those things. So to understand Hinduism and Islam and Judaism and all the others, all those, I can't get all that information in my head. And so I go, is there a way to filter them out easier? Is there a way to filter all this out and simplify it? And I think there is, and it just comes from one simple question. It's this. Can God not get his story right? Okay, quick question. Can God not get his story right? You just have to ask yourself. Let me tell you how this plays. So let me go through these religions. So throw that next slide up there, Chuck. Here's the thing, and most people don't know all this. Islam, they have two truths. They tell you that they believe in the Quran, and they also believe in the Bible. Both of them are written by the same God. Both of them are used by God to give his testament to the world. Now, the problem with that is this. If you know what the Quran teaches and you know what the Bible teaches, vastly different stories about who God is, vastly different characteristics about him, how he behaves, what he believes, what he wants from us, what the afterlife looks like, how he created. Everything is vastly different. And so to be a person who is a Muslim who believes in Islam and goes, that's my religion, you have to legitimately believe that the God that can create the universe and have inside each of our bodies that we covered a couple weeks ago, 37.2 trillion cells in your body, each cell has over 6 billion lines of information, the God who can create all of that can't get his story right. And from time to time has to go, you know what? I told that Jesus and those guys, I told them the wrong story. And this guy Muhammad, he came along now, and I need to tell him the new story because that's really how I did it and who I am. And I messed up the first time. Okay? That makes no logical sense. So when I was someone searching for religion at the time, when I came across that and understood that, I was like, there's no way Islam could be a legitimate religion speaking for that God, because if he can create all the intricacies of the universe that I can see through science and knowledge and all that, and he can't get a stupid story right, there's no way that can be legit. So I can take that religion over here and go, garbage can. I don't need to know anything else about it, okay? It doesn't pass the smell of logic. So that's an easy way to get rid of it. The next one, Hinduism, Buddhism. Hinduism and Buddhism are a little bit different than all the rest of them in the sense of there is no real solid set of beliefs other than reincarnation and karma. So reincarnation, which is you just come back life cycle after life cycle, and karma, which is good and equal balance out. Outside those two beliefs, everything else is kind of just like whatever teacher you decide to follow. They have different beliefs and different philosophies that you follow, and you just pick a teacher you want to go with, and you run with them, and then that becomes your teacher, and that's your understanding of Hinduism or Buddhism. So there is no real standard format of understanding of what the real beliefs are other than those two core, all right? And the problem with that is when you really look at Hinduism and Buddhism, it looks like a very primitive religion. where people haven't really thought it out real well, and there's just people who kind of make up their own paths that they go, and everyone follows those paths. And for me, I just took that one and went, that doesn't make logical sense, because a lot of the teachers contradict each other and say different things that completely oppose the others. And so I could take that one, drop it in a garbage can. I don't need to look at it any further. I know that can't be a message from God. The next one, Mormonism. Now, these you're more familiar with. Mormonism will offer you on TV. If you call the right phone number, they will send you the Book of Mormon, and they'll send you what? The Bible, okay? King James Bible. So they'll send you King James Bible and the Book of Mormon. The reason they will do that, they believe the Bible is inspired by God, and they believe the Book of Mormon is inspired by God. The same God wrote them both, just different prophets. The difference is, same thing with Islam, they have two different stories about every quality of who God is, how creation started, the history of the world, everything's totally different. And therefore, you have to ask the question, can God not get his story right? So the God we all agree that created everything can't get his story right. And you're telling me I'm supposed to put my faith and my belief in that, saying that speaks for God. I take that one, drop it in the garbage. It's off my radar. I don't care anymore. Okay? The next one you have, Jehovah's Witnesses. How many of you have had them knock on your door before or run into them? Okay, what do they always offer you? Does anyone know what the pamphlet is? Watchtower, okay? So Jehovah's Witnesses will always give you the Watchtower, and the Watchtower is their beliefs about who God is and how you're supposed to interpret the Bible and everything. The problem is it totally contradicts the Bible on all sorts of different things, and the Watchtowers contradict each other. And again, you're stuck into the same issue, which is you have two different stories coming from what you say is the same God who created the intricacies of the universe and our design and everything. He can get all that right and have it all work together seamlessly, but he can't get his story right. I take it, I drop it over the garbage can. I'm done with it. I don't care anymore. So just so you know, Mormons and Jehovah's Witnesses, I've had a fun time when they come to my house, but they only come once. And then I get redlined. So now that I've been at my new house for over 5 years, I'm redlined now, and I don't get to talk to them anymore because I have conversations on the porch with them, and it does not usually go well because they're confused because they don't know most of what they believe. And when you use this logic on them, they don't know what to do with it. Okay? But then you get redlined, and I only get one shot. So I got to move again, just so you know, so I can have those conversations. Now, the next one is Scientology. Now, Scientology is fun. So Scientology only has one story. And the story goes something like this. We all have little aliens living in our brain right now called thetans. And we are kind of like robots. And if you ever saw the movie, what was it, Men in Black? The one where his head opened and it was like a shell of a body and there's like that little alien. That's literally Scientology. Like there's a little alien in your head right now controlling your body and everything it does. And he's a little thetan and he's trying to escape your body because he's trapped in it. Okay? That's Scientology. Now what I'm going to say, and this is hard for me to say as a Christian minister, if you want to go sort that one out and go with it, I'd be interested in watching you. Just give me my support. So, but the ones like Scientology, you can just naturally take and you just throw in the garbage can and go, this is stupid. Okay? Sadly, there's a few people. What's his face from Mission Impossible movies? Tom Cruise. Tom Cruise hasn't figured it out yet. So Tom just keeps going, but hey, he's a movie actor. What do you expect? So that one you can throw out. Now, that leaves us with two more. The first one is Judaism. Now, Judaism has one story. They have the Old Testament of the Bible. They do not believe in the New Testament. But what they believe is there's the Old Testament. The Old Testament talks about one character that's to come, that there's going to be a Messiah that restores Israel to its greatness, and it's going to solve all the sins of the world. And it's constantly prophesied throughout the Old Testament. And they believe, and they're still waiting for the Messiah to arrive. Okay? But they have one story that they say comes from one God, and it holds within the context of that story their theme of this Messiah coming. The difference with Christianity is we accept the Old Testament and the New Testament. The New Testament is all about a guy, Jesus, believing that he is the Messiah, that he is the one that the Old Testament talked about, and then his life and his inspiration to his teaching of how to guide the church until he returns again. So again, for Christians, you have one storyline. It's just we add a little bit more to the story, believing that the Old Testament's been fulfilled through this man named Jesus Christ. But it's one story, and it holds within its context, and it makes sense within its context, okay? So when you get done with all that, I look at it and go, you literally only have two logical possibilities up on that board that could be messages from that God we know it exists that interacts with this world. There's really only two logical possibilities you have. Now, at the same time, I'm going to say this. That does not mean they're proven. It just means they're not thrown in a garbage can due to logic. So you are left with Judaism and Christianity. That's all that's left is possible messages from this guy. So now here's the next thing we have to look at. Is there anything unique with Judaism or Christianity compared to all the other religions out there in their writings? And I want you to know absolutely there is. And I want to point some of these out to you. The first thing is this. If you look at the Quran, the book of Islam, they're written by one man, and you know his name, Muhammad. Okay? One guy, Muhammad, he started having seizures. He went to a cave and started having these visions and stuff, and he wrote them down in this cave and then brought them back. And there's talking to his wife at the time. He was had foaming at the mouth and all sorts of stuff that were going on physically with him, and he went off to a cave to get away from everyone and then came back with the Quran and the writing of the Quran. And he writes that. In Hinduism, Buddhism, what you have is a bunch of individual gurus. So each guru writes up their own documentation of how to live your life and what the life path is for you. And so if we're Hindu or Buddhist and we're all gurus and we're having a conference, all of us in this room have our own truths of how you live out your life and what's best for you. Okay? And then you acquire students that kind of are trained by you that you teach. So everybody writes their own thing. The next one, Mormonism. It was written by one guy named Joseph Smith. Okay, so Joseph Smith is the guy, you might know the story. Joseph Smith is the guy that claims that an angel of the Lord came to him and told him, I'm going to give you a new prophecy of God, and if you go to this tree in 5 years, you're going to find these golden tablets and magical glasses. And he went 5 years later and he dug up these tablets underneath this tree and had magical glasses. And when he put the glasses on, he could read the tablets, and that's what the Book of Mormon was. And now they disappeared because after he was done translating it into English, it disappeared and the angel came and got them. Okay? And that is where the Book of Mormon came from. So one guy wrote it. Jehovah's Witnesses, you have Charles Taze Russell. He is the guy that started the whole Jehovah's Witnesses, and it was his writings to help you understand what is true and what the truth of the Bible is, and you follow his teachings because his teachings actually have more value than the Bible because he's the new prophet of God, and he's going to tell you how you're supposed to interpret everything and understand it. One guy wrote it. Scientology, you have a guy named Ron Hubbard. He was a science fiction author. Kind of interesting. At one point, he jokes around with people and says, man, you can make a little bit of money writing science fiction, but if you want to know where the real money is, it's writing a religion. Quote from the guy. 5 years later, he comes out with Scientology, and they have buco bucks because they recruit the rich and stuff like that and get their money from them. So that's Scientology, but it's written by one man, Ron Hubbard. Christianity, here's what makes it extremely unique. Christianity, so this covers Old Testament and New Testament, so Judaism and Christianity. The central figure of everything, Jesus, never writes a word. Not a single word. He writes nothing. Nothing in your Bible is Jesus writing it. It's other people writing about him. But nothing is penned by the central figure of the entire Bible, Jesus Christ. Now, here's some other very unique things as well about the Bible. Number one, it is 66 individual books. A lot of times people pick up the Bible and go, it's one book. Look at this thick book. It's not. It's 66 different books that we just compiled together in the one looking big book. But it's 66 individual. There's 39 Old Testament books, 27 New Testament books. All right? So each one's an individual book. So when you hear someone say, turn to John, the book of John, that was actually just one book of 66 in the Bible. All right? So you got 66 individual books. Those 66 books were written over a 1,500-year time span. 1,500 years. Now, you look at that and go, 1,500 years. Let me give you an idea of what that is. That means if the last one was being penned right now, the first one was written around 500 to 600 AD is when they started. How many people do you know from 500 or 600 AD? How many of you shook hands with and run into? How many of them do you know their life stories? You don't. Okay? That's how far 1,500 years of time is. The next thing is this. It was written by over 40 different authors. 66 books by over 40 different authors. And they all come from different backgrounds. It's interesting. Some of the writers are tax collectors, which would have been people that were disloyal, dishonest, but probably somewhat educated. Okay? You have some that were shepherds, which were your common folk not the most educated people in the world, just common people that just go out and make a living. You have a doctor, that's one of the authors. You have fishermen. You have philosophers. You have preachers. You have rabbis. You have prophets. You have statesmen, and you have kings who all penned different books of these 66. 40 different authors, all different backgrounds over 1,500 years. The Bible is written in 3 different languages, okay? So you have it written in Hebrew, Aramaic, and Greek. 3 different languages write up the different books of the Bible. Now here's the thing. If you're writing in a different language, can you usually talk to that person? Not usually, because you're not speaking the same language. So yesterday at Food Bank, we have Maria. I don't know if Maria's here. I don't think Maria's here this morning. Maria does our Spanish speaking at the table when we're checking people in, because I'll have people come up and I'll say, hey, come on over here, who's number 45, and they'll come up and I'll be like, you have your ID or whatever, and I can tell within half a second they can't speak English. I'll be like, speak English? You'd be like, okay, right over there, because you can't understand, you can't communicate. Now, the beauty we have in this day and age, I could get my phone out and be like speaking my phone on Google Translate, and we can get some type of an idea going back and forth, but even that doesn't work real well. The reason this is important, the Bible, the original text, 3 different languages, okay? Totally different languages. Here's the next thing about it. It was written on 3 different continents: Asia, Africa, and Europe. Different books of the Bible on 3 different continents. And in spite of all that, the Bible has one common theme that revolves around one person that we now know as Jesus of Nazareth. Okay? So let me just take all that stuff. Chuck, go to the next slide, where it re-highlights everything. This is how the Bible is written. It wasn't some guy that went into a cave, came out with a book. It wasn't a guy who said he got some golden tablets with magical glasses and came out with a book. It wasn't some other guys going, let me write down my beliefs on what you're going to do, and they wrote a book and went, follow me, this is my teachings. The Bible came about with a man who it's all about, who never pens a single word, over 1,500 years, 40 different authors. Most of them never knew each other, lived in the same area, ever touched base with each other in life, ever connected in any way, from 3 different languages on 3 different continents. And you get 66 books, and they put these together over 1,500 years time frame that these things are written out from all these authors, and you can read from one to the other. If you've read the whole Bible before, and you go, how's that happen? How's that happen? Okay? The reason I think this is important for us to understand, if God wanted to provide us a unique message with his fingerprints on it, I don't know how much better he could do. Honestly, look at it this way. Let's say there's 100 of us sitting in here this morning, since all of our hunters are out killing Bambi this morning, okay? So let's say there's 100 of us sitting in here this morning. I guarantee you, if we said we're going to take the next month and we're each going to write a book, and we'll split up into teams and we'll put 2 of us together in pairs, here's a common person we want to write about. We're going to write about David Einstein or something, just some random name. David Einstein, we're going to come up with a story about him. And so everybody pair up, go away for a month, write your story, and we're all going to come back together, and we're going to see how our story works. What are we going to get? Chaos. And everyone's going to go, Scott, your story's the best. We just go with yours. I'll be like, I know. That's how it usually is. But no. So with that, you're going to get chaos. You're going to come back. None of our stories are going to match. They're not going to make sense. My story is going to contradict with Rick's story, and Rick's story is going to contradict with Rodney's story, and Rodney's is going to contradict with Ann's story, and so on and so on and so on. You're not going to have anything that even remotely sounds like a cohesive story. Yet that's what you have here 100 times over complicated. Because we're all in the same room. These people never met, most of them. They lived on different continents, spoke different languages, came from different backgrounds, and they wrote these 66 books that when you read them, you go, holy cow. These are all saying someone's going to arrive to save us all. And these are going, he's arrived, and here he is, and he's matching up with everything these people said he would be. And you have this seamless story, and you're going, how does that happen? This is one of the things when I was searching religion, when I found all this out, I was like, if God's going to show us fingerprints on his writing and his word to communicate with us, that stands out to me. Okay, Muhammad going in a cave and writing something doesn't stand out to me. I go, Greg going away and coming back to me in 3 weeks and saying, hey, Scott, I got something for you to read. Here's new religion. Cool, Greg. Nice, okay? Doesn't work for me. But this stands out. This looks like the fingerprints of God. Now understand this. That does not prove Christianity is the message from God. Okay? And honestly, there is no way to prove it. There isn't a way to prove it. But this does say that it's good to have a logical pursuit looking into the Bible because it's logical and it seems to have the fingerprints of God, which means it's worth your time to pursue reading it, studying it, and looking at it and examining it and going, is this possibly the message from our Creator? Now, the last question becomes this. If God wants us to know Him, why doesn't He just make it obvious? Okay, we have this one all the time. God, if you really want me to know you, why don't you just like pop up right in front of me and talk to me and be like, hey, Scott, I'm God. Nice to meet you. I'm the guy who created the universe and all that. We've all thought this, like, why doesn't God just make it obvious? My statement would be this. He already has. Like, how much more obvious can He make it? He has embedded DNA within all of life. Okay, let me remind you one more time of this. Your human body has 37.2 trillion cells in it right now. In every single one of those 37.2 trillion cells, there are 6 billion lines of information that have your entire 2 copies of your entire structure of how to build out your entire life. Every single one of those. That's the fingerprints of God. Okay? Even a single cell organism, what was that one? It was like 6,000, I think, different pairings in there with up to like 1.2 billion pieces of code in each of those 6,000. That's in the bacteria in the cow's stomach. That's a single cell organism. That is the hand of God. He has given us the message of the Bible, which shows His fingerprints and shows that He is the all-powerful God, that throughout history He can create this thing to go, here I am, here's what I want. And He's revealed Himself through Jesus, who performed miracles, incredible miracles, and rose from the dead. Okay? And besides that, in His message, He foretold when He would come and who He would be. And He told you, this is where I'll be, this is where I'm going to be born, this is how my life's going to go, this is what you need to be looking for because I'm going to come. And then He shows up and fulfills all those things. And you look at that and go, how much more obvious can God get? How much more revealing can He become? The only thing we could say is, I need Him whenever I want Him to be there, to show up and like physically be there. And I would argue this. If He did that, number one, that doesn't promote love within you. It just gets you to follow His orders because you realize He's God and I'm me, and that's God and I'm just me. So I'm just going to do what He tells me to do because He could strike me dead at any moment. That's all that provides. It doesn't provide a sense of love because you're not going after Him. You're not chasing Him. You're not trying to pursue a relationship with Him. You're just going, you're superior to me. At the same time, when things happen over and over and over again, we tend to lose the how exceptional it is or how grand it is. For instance, there was a day, 2001, September 10th, that before that, if we saw a terrorist event, we'd all be shocked out of our minds. It would shake our world. Now, let's go 20 years forward. When terrorist stuff happens around the world, we see it on a news blip and we go, okay, new terrorist attack. Why? We got conditioned to it. It's horrific. We just get conditioned to it. And it's the same thing. If God was revealing Himself physically all the time to you, you would get conditioned to it just like Adam and Eve did too and go, hey, God, good to see you. I'm going to go over here and do my own thing. It wouldn't change your life. What changes your life is when you take the effort to go find Him and pursue Him. And what He's done is He goes, here it all is. I've laid it before you. You can find me very easily. This isn't hard, but it does take you pursuing it. And through that pursuit, you develop a desire to be with Him, to love Him, and see how incredible He is. All right? Now, next week, what we're going to look at is this. Now that we know God has spoken, or I believe the Bible is His word speaking, we're going to look at what He said. What is the message of the Bible? We hear it in little groupings. We hear it in little pieces at church all the time. I'm going to put it all together just in a 20-minute little thing of here's the gospel message. This is what it's all about. And we're going to talk about that next week. All right? Would you pray with me? Heavenly Father,